So the cheapest airfares are available on a Tuesday. If you're a hotelier, the most important thing you can do is get heads on beds. I've been in the travel industry for 30 years, and these are the things I used to hear when I first got into the business. They're myths. They endure all these years later. I actually was doing a Google search earlier about myths in the hotel industry and in the airline industry, and people still think there's a day of week where you can get the cheapest airfare. Where does that come from? Well, actually, I am old enough to know I know where that one came from. It used to be in the old days that Tuesday was the day you would do a massive file upload of all of your rates. And so the availability of those cheap rates was best on the day you did that upload. Today, you have very sophisticated rate management tools that are dynamically and perpetually updating rates. And yet that sort of thing persists. And the heads and beds, well, it was much simpler when there was usually just a single room rate. So the most important thing was occupancy. But now with sophisticated rate management and dynamic pricing, you actually don't have this notion that an additional guest in the hotel is better for your business than actually managing your rates. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide and talk about what are myths and why are they important to challenge? Well, there's a great quote here, but in general, what happens is in this very complex industry, we try to simplify things. We try to distill them down to a soundbite or something that actually we just take to be a given so that we don't have to think about it every single time. But if we don't stop and think about what those myths are, we don't stop and think about whether they're actually true, you can make some very faulty business decisions. And so for fun, I actually thought that maybe we could challenge some of these myths together at a time when there's a lot of change happening in the travel ecosystem. Distribution disruption, AI, there are things about personalization, and these are things that are very real, very top of mind, and we as participants in the travel ecosystem want to understand how to participate in them. So, as you saw, we're going to do a Slido code, and if you didn't do it in the first go-round, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and take a little snapshot of that. Go ahead and link over. And it's going to be very easy. I'm going to ask the question, you guys are going to answer, and then you'll get to hear my point of view, and then we'll see how close we are. So I'm trying to buy enough time to make sure everyone's got those phones out and they're going. I think this is the last chance to do it too, so if you want to get in on this. All right. So let's tee up the first one here, and maybe it's not a surprise that the first one's going to be about travel distribution. Now, you heard at the introduction, I am the president of Sabre Hospitality, which is the hospitality IT division. Sabre is probably best known for its GDS. So you might think I have a very biased point of view in the question I'm probably going to ask you in a second here. But do keep in mind that actually one of my jobs was to work for United Airlines running all of the direct channels. And I was responsible for distribution. So you can see that I actually have a perspective on this question of the role of distribution going forward. So let's put this to you. Airlines and hotels don't need intermediaries. Direct distribution is the way forward. So go ahead and hopefully on the Slido that's come up, you can go ahead and do a simple yes or no. They said there'd be music in the background. I can only just now hear it. There we go. All right, so you probably think I'm going to answer a certain way, so you might be surprised to see that, in fact, I answered the way you thought I would, which is false. Intermediation is actually incredibly important. Why is it that intermediation has become almost like a bad word? Let me give you an example of how you use and like intermediation every single week, if not day. When you shop for food, you probably go to a market. That market is an intermediary. They're collecting a lot of assets and putting it on display so that you can make the best possible choice for what it is that you want to buy for food to make meals. Oh, good. We had a lot of false too. You guys are experts. You know the industry. The importance of an intermediary can't be overstated. What the intermediary does is they bring, let's see if I can click to the next slide. They take all of these complex things that are happening in a marketplace and they bring them to a location where you can make a decision as to what's best going forward. And what's happening in travel is many times larger than what happens in a grocery store or a market. There's actually more change and disruption happening that's creating more rate types, more participants, more offers. In a situation where you have complexity, what you're trying to do is figure out how you can actually bring simplicity. And the role of an intermediary is to do exactly that. So yes, it's absolutely true that hotels and airlines want to create direct channels, and when that's the appropriate time, you can leverage those direct channels. But to call that the only path, to call that the optimal path, is really a myth. That is false. We as consumers benefit from the intermediaries creating a sense of cohesion in what can be a lot of noise. Now, how do you do that? You need to create sort of an omni-channel. You need to bring data sources in from a lot of locations, and that can be really tough. And so as an intermediary, or even as a direct channel, but as an intermediary, how do you take all that information and present it? And it's not about actually narrowing things down. It's actually making sure that you can deliver the right offers and put those in front of the customer at the right time. So how are we doing on that? Not too well. So this is information from Expedia that I thought was very, very interesting. So in 2013, on average, we would look at 38 different sites or locations to try to get information about where we wanted to buy, what we wanted to purchase, what travel information we wanted to consume. And here we are in 2024, that number's up to 277. So it just goes to show you just the amount of information that has been created around travel, and the burden is on consumers to figure out how to digest that and make the right decision. So the idea, how do you answer this, is actually retailing. It's how do you actually do personalized retailing to make sure that each individual feels as though they're getting the select set of information that works best for them. Now, personalization is something that hotels do all the time, that markets do all the time, direct channels can do. But doing digital personalization has proven to be very tough. We've been talking about digital personalization for over 20 years. People bought loyalty systems, they had access to a lot of information, and they were looking for ways that they could leverage that information to do something very special. And you've probably seen examples of this. So my next question to you is, do you think the travel industry knows how to do personalization at scale? And I'll go ahead and tee that one up for you. Okay, so the travel industry doesn't know how to do personalization at scale, and it's 50-50. It's very interesting. So I've been actually part of a lot of endeavors to create personalization for hotel companies and for airlines. And if you know how personalization has been done historically, and I won't even take a separate poll of how many of you do personalization work, but there's something called segmentation analysis. I don't know from head nods if people sort of know what segmentation analysis is, but the idea is, can I identify a cohort of people that you look like? So when I recognize you as looking like this group of people, I can present something to you that's a little bit better than if I didn't know you at all. And that's been the state of the art for basically 20 years. And I used to do a lecture for a university in the United States, and I used to talk about the fact that there was two things I thought I would never see. I never thought I'd see a marketing attribution model that actually works, and I never thought I'd actually see true one-to-one personalization. Well, what's happening now is we're moving away from this idea of segmentation, and we are finally at the point where we can truly do individual recognition and bring an offer or a set of options out of that big mass of paper clips you saw and deliver one to you that's exactly right. Now, we're at the front end of this, because in fact, other industries are still struggling with this too. I assume many of you have Netflix or use Amazon, and they have recommendations. How good are those recommendations? These are digital natives, and they're trying to do personalization for you. It's better. Is it good? When Amazon recommends you've bought this before, you should try this. I would love to this one I will do. How many people have actually purchased something off of that recommended list based on what you bought on Amazon before? I'm seeing 3 out of, okay, maybe let's call it 10 or 15 out of 200. Personalization has a long way to go, so how do we get there? Well, the brilliance of what's happening right now is that AI is coming around at exactly the right time. We've been collecting data in the travel industry about our loyalty members or our consumers or about people who use our services for 20 years. The ability to turn that into action has finally been unlocked. And you can see this today in AI. AI actually can take information and understand it, and now it can actually apply nuance, it can apply subtlety, it can apply things that are unique in the moment. Just because I look like a cohort of thousands of other people doesn't mean I am those thousands of other people. And what AI can do is allows you to actually really fine-tune that and start to put forward something that's very personalized. Now, I assume many of you have used chatbots before. That's a very real example of true personalization of responses based on you and the way that you talk, the way that you think, and the nuances of what you're looking at. So that leads us to the third question. If AI is really going to be this big unlock to do personalized retailing, and that's the only way to deliver complex information to a consumer, is it true that travel companies that fail to adopt AI will lose their competitive advantage within 3 years? I'm starting to like the music more. Okay. Let's see what you all said. We say true, you say true. 70-30 though. So the trick in that question was the time frame. So I think it might be interesting to look at this. And some of you may have seen slides like this before. And this is how long it takes new technology to become a sort of a mass consumption technology in the marketplace. And if you go back to the early days of electricity, telephone, see, telephone took 35 years for that to become sort of a broadly consumed or broadly used technology. And then you look at the smartphone back in 2005, it's 5 years. Now, I'll give you a little bit of information you may not know. So ChatGPT first went into a preview mode in November of 2022. By January of 2023, 100 million people were using ChatGPT. This is moving at a rate I have never seen before. I've been in travel and tech for my whole career. This is like nothing else. With the shift to mobile, at least we had a moment to breathe and figure out how we wanted to pivot our applications. I was at United at the time, and create those for the marketplace. This is moving so fast, we don't have that time to breathe. Now, what's nice about AI is that you can actually start to create those really relevant use cases. But what's even better is the accessibility of the tools that AI provides. It no longer takes a large corporation to tap into really sophisticated level technology. There are toolkits, there are things that you can play with, there's things that you can incorporate without redoing your infrastructure, without redoing your architecture, without redoing your tech stack. And there are now companies like Sabre that actually work with travel companies to integrate AI into their applications. And we're integrating AI into our applications. You will clearly be left behind. I'll do an analogy that works for me, and I think there's enough range of age in here that you would imagine this. Mobile phones certainly been around since the 80s, quite frankly. The iPhone was a transition, and suddenly apps became a thing. People were actually fairly slow to move their websites into a mobile format, and specifically an app. But now, could you imagine doing business with a company that doesn't have an app or doesn't have a mobile presence that is strong and powerful? That's the expectation consumers are going to have when engaging with you and your brands or your services. Are you AI enabled? Are you driving a better experience for me as a consumer because you are leveraging AI to power what you do? And the ones that have versus the ones that don't, it'll be very, very clear. And the bias will be, as it was with mobile, the winners will be the ones that are mobile first and mobile centric. And now it'll be the ones who are AI first and AI centric. It is very real, and it's going to happen very, very fast. So 1.8 trillion of projected value for the global marketplace. That's what we think that's going to be. I think that number is too low. Now, we can all get back together in 2031, and we can look at that number, but I'm betting you it's much larger than 1.8 trillion. That's how big this is. But There is a downside with AI, and you may be aware of it. It's very power intensive. It requires a lot of energy. And obviously, a very important theme in the world today is sustainability. So here's AI. It's going to be 165% bigger increase in data center power demand by 2030. I think that's probably understated as well. There's improvements in more efficiency in AI all the time, but it is power hungry. It requires massive compute. So my question to you is, travelers say they want sustainability, but they won't pay more for it. Regretfully, we say true. And now let's see what you said. Unfortunately, we all know this to be true. What's the problem? We all want it. We all say we want it. Well, there's a difference in say versus do. We as consumers, excuse me, we look for convenience. We look for simplicity. And the problem is, you see here, 76% of travelers want to be more sustainable, but price remains the #1 priority when making a travel decision. And 50% claim that sustainability is important in their thought process of where they want to go. But when it comes down to it, 1 out of 10 actually apply that to the purchase decision. Well, you can shake your fist at that and say, well, what's wrong with the consumer? Why aren't they acting more rationally? Why aren't they doing the things that they know are best for the environment and best for us and best for this planet? Unfortunately, what it means is that the burden actually is going to fall on the suppliers to integrate sustainability more seamlessly into the purchase decision. Another way to say it is, it needs to be built in and not bolted on. Now, that seems unfair that we as travel companies and we as suppliers of travel need to take on that burden, but it is our responsibility, and it should be our privilege to try to find more and more ways to bring sustainability directly into the things that we offer and the way that we serve them. So no longer would it be a choice about, do I want sustainability or do I want something cheap? Do I want sustainability or do I want to be efficient and easy for me to consume it? They should be hand in hand. They should be things that come along naturally for the ride. And let's take that burden of responsibility away from the consumer, fair or not, and let's take that as a charge for us to do even more and move even faster. So let's sum this up. So we've got travel distribution. We must offer choice and convenience. Intermediaries play a role in all industries in doing exactly that. Personalization needs to evolve. Travel can be the pioneer in getting this right. We have the biggest mandate, we have the biggest challenge, we have the most complexity for consumers, and our ability to leverage AI to drive true personalization is here and now and ready to be used. And if you don't use AI, it's a now or never opportunity or moment for you. You will not get a second chance to lean in and find ways to use AI. Now, I will do one caution. Trying to do everything everywhere all at once, to reference a great movie title, is not wise when it comes to AI. You need to be very thoughtful about where you want to apply AI, be very specific, solve real use cases, and get value from them. So I'm not asking for a major burden. I'm telling you have a real opportunity to think very specifically on how you can use AI and start using it right away. And let's make sure that even though we're going to be driving that additional power demand by using AI, we're going to be doing things as travel providers and people who support the travel industry to ensure that sustainability becomes inherent into how we provide travel packages and travel solutions. So anyway, thank you for participating with me in the little consideration of these myths. I certainly don't want to hear about the fact that travel tickets, airline tickets are cheapest on a Tuesday, and I certainly don't want to hear that we're actually mistaken by some of the myths that are coming out today. You've been a great audience. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank
that was
you.
impressive. I love the format. How did you like it? Isn't that great to be as engaged? Warm applause again, because this is really outstanding. I feel we have some copycats next year. No, but I have a question for you, because I love this, and this is what really drives everyone in daily business, right? How to separate between what is nice to know, what we have to know, what we do need to do, what we could do. So what are you personally most excited about in terms of technology trends?
Well, I alluded to it a little bit earlier, which is I've been in this industry for a long time, and I've been the intersection of technology and travel for the whole time. And this idea of truly giving personalized experiences. I mean, think about how travel is such an emotional purchase. It's not looking at facts and figures on a spec sheet. This is about doing something that really is meaningful. And we don't have the luxury to take lots of personal travel, so to get it right is really important. Travel has an opportunity to do that like never before. I am so excited to see how we are going to be pioneers in this space of delivering curated, personalized experiences at scale. It's a game changer.
Right. Well, I'm personally super excited about this, and there's so much opportunity. And then my last question, what is your next travel destination? Where are you heading to next?
Well, my next travel destination is back home to Chicago, which is not a great time to go to Chicago. It's very, very cold.
It's very cold?
Oh,
okay.
It's even colder than here, I can tell you that. But I do have a trip coming up to Dubai in about a month. I haven't been to Dubai before, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Well, I wish you the best time in Dubai, and thank you so much for having been here with us. Everyone, Scott Wilson from Sabre Corporation, a warm applause. Thank you.